All right, y'all. Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Jab Podcast. It's episode 154. Of course, I'm Combo Breaker 99.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy P.
And it's been a little bit again. I mean, behind the scenes, me and P, we be grinding, taking care of business. But I mean, the boxing world's been going on, P. We've been keeping up with it. But it seems like this one topic, man. I mean, we done had the fight a month ago, but it's still being discussed. Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. You would think that one fight would have solved everything, but it seems like we still got some things going on right now with it. And Errol Spence, he's activated the rematch clause. That's the word, P. I mean, let's kind of jump into it. With him activating this rematch clause. I mean, what was your reaction when he did activate, when you first heard it?
Well, the night of the fight, he said that he wanted to run it back. You know what I mean? Errol Spence, he definitely seemed like a competitive guy. And it didn't surprise me. You know what I'm saying? I know people was like, well, you took a beating like that, you might not want a rematch. But he a competitive guy. And I agree with like what a lot of people have been saying. If nothing else, I know he feel like he can give a better account of himself. And you know what I mean?
Right. He had taken some time off. There were really a lot of people keep trying to keep up with it. Like media is trying to say that, he was really pushing that deadline, which for good reason. I mean, you really want to think about something like that, especially with the way the first fight went.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the first fight in the July, people were ready to hear right away. They don't even want to they don't even want to give a guy some time to rest. I mean, when I heard it was activated, I was already kind of like, man, I'm kind of in fear for him right now, because I'm still coming off the first fight. It's only been a month off that fight. And it seems like people or fans, they fall so in love with a fighter that they forget about their well-being sometimes. So that was my first thing. I was like, man, this don't sound right, because it's one thing if the fight was competitive, it was like a draw. Yeah, we want that ran back decision, but this was like 9 one-sided rounds, man.
Yeah, from my understanding though, and he had like a deadline, which is, kind of puts you in the bind. You know what I mean?
Right. And that was kind of something like they didn't think about. Like when he did, I guess when they do the rematch clause, it's basically they're just saying, okay, they think of a date, but they go ahead and settle on this one. But maybe he was thinking that the fight wasn't going to go that bad, where he could just activate it. But, now it's like with the way the first fight went, it would seem like you would want some more time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because from my understanding, him activating it means that's the next fight for him. It's not like you saying, I do want to fight you again eventually, but I'm going to take another fight. I don't think it's that. I think this means this is an immediate rematch.
Mm-hmm. Kind of going back and looking at the first fight, P, can we say, because I don't like to use excuses at this point. I mean, when you get in that ring or get in that cage, that means you're ready. No fighter ever comes in there 100%. Nobody does. It's on you to adapt and do whatever you got to do to win the fight. But to me, like, did you see anything in that first fight to make you say, I'm glad he's trying to get this rematch?
Not anything in that fight. And the only thing I could see possibly is just another big payday. You know what I'm saying? Another guaranteed decent payday for Spence. But outside of that, I can't see anything from that fight that would make us see a different result.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because we got to realize Earl didn't make any excuses. So it's not like he's saying, yeah, man, I wasn't right that night. He's saying I was 100%. Mm-hmm. That's what this man is saying out of his mouth. So we gotta go with what he say.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion.
That's where I'm kind of at with it. That's why it doesn't really hype me up to say, oh snap, he ready to go or anything, because it's not even like he got caught. It's one thing if he got caught in the fight. maybe like he got clipped in the first round, got knocked out, or something like that. But it was like a steady 9 rounds of the same thing. Where if you see that over and over, it's like, okay, like why are these guys even sharing the ring at this point? You know what I mean? It kind of makes you say, why are they even sharing the ring? So to see them want to do it a second time, you know, it seemed like it seemed like the fans, like you were saying, the fans tend to come up for more excuses for the actual fighter than did. You know, he didn't say anything.
Well, and a lot of people in combat sports, I seen different people speaking on the topic, and they're saying like a guy, when we're saying a guy didn't look himself in the fight, that's because the other guy was not allowing him to look himself. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what happened. You know, even Izzy's coach said that. You know, he said, I'm not taking anything away from this guy. What he was doing stopped Izzy from, you know what I'm saying, being himself and capitalizing how he normally would. So I'm just saying, you know, Earl's not making any excuses. If he didn't look right, you gotta give some of that to the opponent he was facing. You know what I mean? Because that'll make you not look yourself, man, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? If you face something you never faced before, you might not look the way you normally look in fights.
Right. And I think that when fighters, if a fighter goes in with an injury that is, you know, it's not serious enough to pull out of a fight, but they could still go in there and get the fight, you know, they can still get through the fight. I think fans, they tend to respect them a little bit more than somebody that's already going in with a bunch of excuses. You know what I mean? Like that kind of makes them look at their character a little bit more. So I think
absolutely
that's one reason why for Spence is kind of like I respected him more for just giving Bud the full credit that he deserved for the fight. But at the same time, I'm not 100% behind him when it comes to taking on this fight, you know, this rematch.
Especially if they talking about something like December, and where that's not far away. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Earl's on vacation right now, rightfully so. He needs to just chill out and relax. But I mean, he still got a window, you know, a small window to bounce back, work on some technique, you know, all the things he would need to do to be successful in a rematch. I mean, it's a tall task ahead of him.
Yeah. Well, I'm just pulling some stuff up right now, P. So it looks like we got a real good update right here. Well, you know, depending on how you look at it, but this was posted an hour ago. But it says, because I was about to ask you about what did you think about Spence changing trainers, but it looks like Derek James is going to be his trainer, you know, even for his rematch.
Yeah. What else I was going to say? I was like, I haven't heard Earl say anything about it. I seen it floating around, but I haven't heard Earl say anything. So, I don't know. So you just seen something that said that he is sticking with Derek.
Yeah, right here. I'm going to read you this quick thing from Derek James, and you just tell me what you think. He said, you had an off day, a bad day. He's speaking to Errol Spence, and he said it happens in life. And so I think in reality, in life, individuals have good days and bad days every day. Errol was just on a bad day on the grand stage. You know, people have bad days, but they never give up or stop trying. So I guess he was saying, so why would we have 28 days of our career and then just one bad day and just say no and just kind of, I guess he means just kind of cut ties, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, but you know, we've been watching boxing for a long time, and it's no big thing to switch a trainer. People do it all the time because it is kind of business sometimes. Yeah. You know what I mean? This guy's trying to be the best that he can be, and he may feel like, you know, he can't get it for, you know, so I see both sides of it. You know, it is some loyalty, but in today's world, I mean, look at Anthony Joshua. I mean, he didn't hop 3 or 4 trainers or whatever. So it's just like we in a time now where, you know, that stuff is getting tested, that loyalty. So I mean, if Earl did decide to go with somebody like Roy Jones, could we frown upon that, Ant?
No.
You know what I mean? Could you frown upon that? Him going to one of the best fighters ever. Derek James wasn't the best fighter ever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Not taking nothing away from him, but I'm just saying, you know, it's just a hard thing to say. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, a guy like Roy Jones or any of the top fighters, ex-fighters that are trainers now, I mean, that's just a lot of value. I mean, and Derek James is an ex-fighter, but I'm just saying, I would think Roy, I mean, I don't know, man. It's a tough situation, man, because, you know, some people can get other things out of people. I mean, look at what Bomac did for Eubanks. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the first fight, it was a bad night for Eubanks. Maybe this fight was a better, I don't know. But it looks like what Bomac did, you know, helped him out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I remember, the first fight, with the way Eubank took that approach, I mean, he got starched. It was like 2 rounds, right? It was a quick first and second round, I believe.
You know? And what did he had just left Roy, or he was working with Roy for that fight?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was working with Roy that night. I mean, he had like the same like color shorts and haircut like Roy had like when he had fought Tarver. Like it was like a spitting image of him that night. That's what just made it kind of weird, you know. And then he got knocked out like the second round too, because I was like, because I had to like side out a fight. I had to kind of do a quick take, and I was like, wait a minute, is that Roy in the ring? I was like, oh, that is Chris Eubank. It was just straight down to the cut and everything, you know. But yeah, going into the rematch with Bomac, it was just like a more confident fighter, you know. He seemed like he was ready to go. So I think sometimes changes are necessary, man. But when you look at like Spence, do you see his thing as something like, okay, he needs a new trainer, or was it just a bad day? Like, can he bounce back with Derek James?
The thing about it is, whether he stays with Derek James or not, he got to bring some more stuff to the table, though, Ant. You feel me? Like, he didn't have enough weapons, you know? So, I mean, I don't know if Derek can teach him some new stuff, or even if he can be taught new stuff at this stage in the game, you know, because that's a skill, Ant, learning at this stage in the game, you know what I mean, for fighters. So, I don't know, man. It would be interesting to see what the results will be if Earl did go to another trainer. Yeah. You know, I'd be curious to see if somebody could get something out of him. You're talking about a basic, fundamentally sound guy, and there's no flash there at all. So, you know, I don't know if another trainer could bring more out of Earl. You know, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it would all be up to Earl, you know, at this point. But I think that there could be something there that can be changed. But like you were saying, he's going to have to bring more stuff. So that would mean, you know, Derek James, he would have to be willing to step out of the box. You know what I mean? Like, people always say the fighter needs to change, but what about the trainer you with? Like, can they open their minds to say, hey, maybe we need to do this instead? Like,
absolutely.
You know, that can avoid you training,
exactly.
Switching trainers.
I mean, nobody knows everything, Ant. No trainer knows everything. No, so it's just like, after seeing some footage like that, seeing things that I've never seen my man busted up bleeding. I never seen him knocked down. I never seen him stop. That would tell any smart man that we need to go back to the drawing table and really see what we can change. You know what I mean? And it's that's the thing. It's not like he just lost. It's the way it happened. So even the trainer is like a big deal. You know, did Derek James not do enough, or did he not do the right thing? Can another guy bring something out of Earl? Think about that, Ant. Roy Jones training Earl Spence. They really don't even seem like they would mesh together, because, you know, Earl was not an athletic necessarily type fighter, you know, and Roy was all about the athleticism or whatever. So, but if he could get Earl to be athletic, that would be very, very, very interesting. That very interesting. I don't know if it could happen. You know what I mean? But that would be interesting, seeing Earl coming out with a different style.
Yeah. Because I was looking at some footage. I'm gonna have to send you the link, P. But there was some guy on YouTube. I can't remember who it was, but he did a video. Basically, it was an answer to all the people that were saying Errol Spence wasn't the same. So what he did was he played footage from like the Ugas fight.
I seen that.
You did? Okay.
And honestly, for me, Ant, I didn't know for a fact, but I knew that Earl talked different after the accident.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
If you go back to that young footage, he's very witty. He's snappy. It's not that slow, muffled up drawl that he kind of got now. If you go to that early footage, he talking real fast. He talking like he from New York because he's from New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I definitely noticed that. That's a fact. But I did see that video that you're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because in this one, they were showing like some of the things he was doing in Ugas fight. He was doing the same things in Crawford fight, and Crawford was just catching him. Crawford was just yeah. This wasn't the one where they were talking. This was actually like some dude doing like a side by side comparison of the fight. He was basically saying that Errol wasn't off. He was doing the same things.
The same things. I mean, if you look at round one, that was Earl Spence all day. Round one, coming out quick, trying to get the jab. It just didn't work. You know what I mean? After the second round, the knockdown, things changed. But that first round was classic Earl Spence.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And then
nothing was wrong with him. People said he was high. His eyes look. That first round, he did what he always does.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I've been looking at when I look. I can't even look at the fight again, man, because it was like it wasn't even really a fight. Like
it's tough to watch, man.
Yeah, it is one of them ones that's tough to watch. That's why it's like I couldn't look at it. I seen enough the first one. In the first fight, I said, you know what? It's kind of like Derrick James and Errol. They just train for a hard fight, whereas Bud and Bomac, they were training, like I said, to be the best fighter. It's kind of like a difference. You know what I mean? Like, we just train for a hard fight. I think they just coming in to fight hard, but Bud had a point to prove where he wanted to be the best fighter that can, do whatever. I think there's just like a big difference. And I think that's if you don't change trainer, that's what they're going to have to do. Is going to have to say, okay, if we want to be the best fighter, we just can't take the same approach anymore. It worked on Danny, it worked on Porter and them, but it's not going to work on Bud because he's another level. You just have to really bite down and admit it.
So, but that's what I'm wondering though, Ant. Did Derrick James really know how good Terrence was? Because he was really dismissive of Terrence in the build up to the fight too, and like maybe his eyes got open. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When they experienced that speed for the first time, I think it kind of threw, the both of them off. And like they say sometimes, like if at least one of them is in the fight, the trainer or the fighter, I think somebody can wake somebody up. But when your trainer is kind of like almost dazzled by your opponent's speed and you in there getting dropped and out jabbed and beat up, it's pretty much down the drain from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think, even like when Ward, he got dropped in that Kovalev fight, Virgil Hunter, he was still in it. So, he was like, you get back up. He told me to get back into the fight. He didn't like lose his I can't really say Derrick lost his cool in there, but maybe
he didn't have the information though.
He didn't have the information. Thank you. Yeah,
that's the difference. But what I'm saying about like certain trainers, like I don't know how many times Derrick James has experienced something like that on a big stage. You know what I'm saying? He's got other fighters, but on a big stage like that, Virgil just is smooth and experienced. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So he was more able to feed Ward what Ward needed at that time. Mind you, I think they kind of got the same relationship. I think that Derrick and Earl, it's a lot of respect there, and he it's a lot of love there, like it is between Ward and Virgil, but it's levels to it. You know what I'm saying? Like even Derrick encountered a lot of stuff that night that he never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So didn't have the answers like Earl didn't. Earl said, "Oh damn, I ain't never seen that," and neither did Derek. But to me, it's kind of like Derek James' job to kind of more so have those answers. You feel me?
Yeah.
All right, you know what? That didn't work. What we worked on didn't work. We're gonna switch to this or try this. You know, it's his job to feed him that data. You know what I'm saying? Because he don't got time to process that. He just needed, somebody on the outside processing and feeding him the right information so he can go do what he need to do. And it was like Derek James really didn't know what information to give him too. And to me, that can go to the levels of training. There's somebody, Virgil, Derek James is not a Virgil. He's not a Emmanuel Stewart, those guys, the list goes on. There's a lot of great trainers out there. He's not a great trainer. He won trainer of the year 2 years in a row. He was hot, but I wouldn't consider him a great trainer, Ant, because he ain't been around long enough, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Been around long enough.
Right. Yeah. When you're looking at some of the guys that they dabbled in so many of the fighters' careers and resurrected their careers or just kept them consistent.
And eras of fighters, not just in the 90s, the eras of fighters.
Yeah.
70s, 80s, 90s, you know what I mean? These guys, they like the fighters. They haven't been around long enough, you know what I mean? No knock on Derek. He can't help what he's been exposed to, but I'm just saying it is some depth in like the trainers, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? If Virgil was in that corner, it would have been some different words and some different information getting fed to Earl Spence. I'm not saying he would have made him win the fight, but he would approach that different. He would approach that different. Him and Emmanuel still would have approached that different.
You know what? Like, let me ask you this, P. Like, do you think it's important? Because I was talking about this with some people in the MMA world. Like, I always tell people, like, if you want to be the champion, you got to like become a stalker almost. You got to become like this fanatic, right? To study that fighter, to really understand what makes them tick. Do you think like, see, for us, like, why are we seeing things like when we see Bud and Spence going into a match, we see certain things, but like, do you think like the trainers aren't watching the same things that the fans aren't watching? Do you think they should be? Because I don't know, when I seen Bud wrestling people like just on his time off when he's not like doing things in the gym, that had me nervous for Spence. Like, do you think they see that stuff and just kind of push it to the side?
I mean, well, that's what I'm saying, man. There's so much posturing going on because, Derek James was saying he ain't seen no Terrence fights. That sounded crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if he was just posturing, trying to downplay Terrence, or he was really being real, and from the results, he might not have been lying, to be honest, because like you said, you would think, listen, you think Bud just started studying him when the fight got made, that boy been studying that man for years, bro.
For years.
He been watching him and, like you say, stalking him for years, and we see that because he had an answer for anything you could think to do in there, and that shows that he's been doing his homework. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the thing, that night you could see it in Bud's face that he was like, oh man, I'm ready to show it. He was like, I'm so ready for this because y'all about to witness something. And I think the opposite with them, like, again, he said, oh, I'm the better fighter, so I'm going to win. But like, I think Spence had trained, but he knew he was in for a tough fight, whereas Bud already knew that I'm prepared for whatever you got, And that's what I'm saying. Like, us, we see so many things and it makes you nervous. Like, oh, he better watch out. But with Derek James or like any trainer, it makes you say, like, did they miss something here? Like, were they not looking at the strength? Like, did they just think Bud was going to be this little twig or something?
And think about it, and that's why even them throwing the 154 around is kind of confusing because you don't think Bud is going to be stronger at 154?
Yeah,
he's a strong person, period. Now you putting on more muscle and more weight. You think he ain't going to be stronger? That don't really make sense, man.
Well,
to me, that don't give Spence the advantage. We thought that this fight gave Spence the advantage. And what happened? Who looked like the bigger man? Who acted like the bigger man? You know what I'm saying?
So now you bring that up because now we know the rematch is happening. It's going to happen in 154. Like, do you see anything to gain for Spence it would be to gain redemption, but like for either one, like just looking from the outside, do you see anything to really gain for it just being at a different weight besides the advantage?
I mean, like you say, outside of Earl Spence getting redemption, I mean, Terrence Crawford is just going to be something he's already done before, in my opinion. He's already done that. It's another payday for him. It's no more accolades to get out of it, you know, because the first fight, you were so dominant that, I mean, Earl can come out and knock you out, and it still might not change that feeling, that, to be honest.
No, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if there was something to gain, like, I know he can't make 147. You know, they stressing that, but if there was something like undisputed on the line, I think it would pull in even more fans. Like, oh man, like he really want to go after something. But now it's just kind of like this blank thing where he's just out to prove everybody wrong. But it's like, man, when you look at the time, like December for nothing, really, like, you know, nothing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some people don't even consider it a rematch if it's at a different weight. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's kind of like another fight, but like you said, 154. It's no belts on the line. It's no real legacy attached to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know, both of them squawking about the weight, but they could do 147 one more time. You know what I'm saying? For the type of money that's on the table, and you know, is it the best idea? I don't know. I mean, Earl, he's been there his whole career. I just can't see one more time being that detrimental. But you know, and even moving up, that don't change the damage that he's took in the car accident, the damage he took in that fight. He's still the same person. I just like you say, Ant, that's a good way to put it. It's no gain at 154. You know what I'm saying? Even for Earl Spence, it's no gain at 154. You know, Terrence, he can say, "Oh, I beat you at 147 and 154." That don't really mean a whole lot. You know, the 147 thing, you took 3 of Earl belts and became undisputed. That's standard. That's legacy. That's history. But the rematch at 154, like you say, I don't see any gain in that. And even like you say, if Earl was to pull it out and get the victory, you still may never become undisputed in your career.
Yeah, you're not really gaining. No, you're not. Like,
you know what I'm saying? I mean, the belts at 154, you had to fight Jamel, wait to Canelo. You know, that's not really in the cards even for him to become undisputed at 154. And we talking about a man, his whole career has been talking undisputed. And it's one thing he's just like, I'm out for the money, you know, but Earl's been kind of committed to becoming undisputed.
Yeah, that's at welterweight, you know, like
welterweight.
Because you do the rematch again, 154, like you said, don't really hold the same ring because it's not going to be like the first fight where, you know, people are going to put that up there with, you know, Hearns and Leonard and all of those fights like that now. You know, now.
Look, the pressure that first fight had.
Oh, man.
I got a belt. You got 3 belts. I don't want to lose. You don't want to lose. We both undefeated. Okay, now we coming in. I got all the belts. You're undefeated already. You know what I mean? It's a whole different vibe going into the fight.
Yeah, yeah, like I said, it doesn't really set up anything for even like Errol to get redemption. To me, like you said too, like I think he can squeeze out one more welterweight fight. And if Errol wanted this thing at welterweight, I think it would force him to live that lifestyle, man, and, you know, get back into the right shape. You know, no drinking.
Get uncomfortable again. Get
uncomfortable. No drinking, you know, just eating right, because Bernard Hopkins said it can be done. You know, guys, it can be done. The reason it can't and guys move up is because there's certain things they don't want to give up.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But if you really want to make that weight like Floyd did, all the way up until shoot, in his career, I know they're different body types, but it can be done. I think it can be done.
If it's $1 million on the table, millions of dollars, it can be done, bro.
In a healthy way. I'm saying? Yeah, in a healthy way.
You know what I'm saying? So, and like we say, we're not saying do it 5 more years. We're saying do it 1 or 2 more fights. Your body can hold that. You got top nutritionists. You got the top people at all levels to make sure that goes smoothly if need be. You know what I'm saying? So it can be done. It can be done, but the mental part of it ain't in my head. At 147, I ain't strong and I'm not good enough. Earl got some doubts in his head now about 147, man.
Oh, yeah.
In my opinion, you know what I mean? So,
and I think with that type of doubt right there, I think I'll go ahead and say it now. Like with that type of doubt at 147, if he happened to fight any of them other guys at 147, he might lose now. Like Keith Thurman, Boots, all because of the doubt. Yeah. All because of you doubting yourself,
Well, let me ask you this real quick because you brought up one time. Did you see his latest, him and Terrence Crawford going back and forth? But, did you see that, Ant?
It was on Twitter, right?
Yeah, it was on Twitter.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it.
I seen it on Boxing Scene too, but we just the part I was just talking about how he was saying that he would have beat that version of Earl that night. And that like caught my attention. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting because people were really kind of trying to look at it like he wasn't the Earl Spence that he was or whatever. So I just thought that was interesting that he said that. So he's definitely looking at it like, but that wasn't. I could have beat that version. A lot of people could have beat that version of Earl Spence that night. You didn't do anything great. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I missed that part, but I disagree with him. Yeah, I disagree with him on that. I think Errol would beat Keith Thurman now. Well, then, but now that he suffered this loss, I think it all depends on how his psychological, how his mind is.
So now with this loss, it do put a different spin on the Keith Thurman fight. But I did want to see what you thought about how he felt about that on that night.
Yeah, that night, I think
any welterweight could have beat Earl. So you know what I mean? That's how he.
Like Keith looked bad in his last couple fights. He was getting hurt to the body too. So I think if Spence brought his style, I think Spence probably would have beat him. Maybe later down the fight, like a stoppage or a decision. But I don't think that Keith Thurman was in any type of shape because you take it away from what Bud looked like that night, and that Bud that I seen looked like a better version of every Bud that we've seen leading up to this point. So when he says that, he's taking away a lot of credit from what Bud looked like.
Right.
You can't do that. You can't do that. That version of Bud was like any Keith.
He was coming from, he was trying to take a shot at Bud or whatever, but it did make me think like, wow. I mean, I don't know, but we always know what the point that we at right now. What'd you say, Ant?
I saw Danny Garcia get thrown in there too, man, because there was a tweet with them going back and forth. He would say, "Oh, now y'all want to fight me now" and stuff like that. I was like, okay,
yeah. And I'm wondering, are they calling him out? Are they trying to get a Terrence Crawford fight? Because the way Terrence Crawford made it seem. I mean, I understand, I feel him, but it's just the way it go. Like when people vowing not to ever fight somebody, and it just kind of mess up the game too a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get it. They did that to you. It wasn't right. You want to get them back, but we might be missing out on some good fights that we really want to see because y'all, what I'm saying, got y'all little situation going on or whatever. So,
let me ask you this before we kind of start to close this one out. But I wanted to ask you, do you think it would have been better if Spence took a tune-up fight leading up to any type of rematch with Crawford? Think that would help him, or You think he's doing smart by just jumping right back in?
Yeah, I think it would be smart for so many reasons. It would let him gauge where he's at. Because you gotta realize this, and Terrence Crawford was hurting him with every punch. When you know that you can be hurt like that, and I know that I can hurt you like that, that does something to your psyche. So I would want to see how I'm responding in another fight before that, to build up some confidence pretty much, you know what I mean? Or even just see where I'm at with it. See if another guy can do that to me and I can say, well, it wasn't Terrence Crawford. I ain't got it no more, or whatever the case may be. It would just be a smart thing to do to gauge and to boost up some. But, on the flip side, it's like, do you want to give him a soft touch? And is this soft touch going to help him in the toughest fight of his life?
Right.
You know what I mean? There's so many ways to look at it. You know what I mean? But I think that at the end of the day, it would be the smarter thing to do. Just to, if nothing else, gauge for yourself where you at. You know what I mean? Because you got to realize, you got thrown out the car, Earl. You've been in what?
Two car accidents.
Yeah, 2 car accidents. You've been in 2 fights, Danny. What? Danny and Ugas, right? He got hit in some of those fights. He won, but he still got hit. And then you took a beating against Terrence Crawford. How are you right now?
And damaged retina too.
Yeah, and his retina. So, like, how are you in the present right now? I mean, none of us really know. We haven't talked to his doctors. We not around him like that to know where he is right now. We know about the car accident, but you got to add in something else now. I mean, a beating like that. How did that affect you? So I don't know, man. It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it is, man. It is when I look at it, man. Like when I heard, like I said, going back to my reaction, I was like, oh man, this ain't gonna be good, man. Especially when you jumping right back in, and maybe by December or January, either way is not a good look to me.
Yeah, and we know it's all pride right now, man. Do I really believe that Earl think he can beat him? I don't believe that he think, oh, yo, I can do this. I don't believe that. It's that pride, right now, that I can't accept me going out like that. Yeah. I can't accept that. You know what I mean? And I know I'm a better fighter than that. But
and that's what get you killed though, man. It's like, wow.
So that's because
it's one thing if a dude says like, oh, he caught me, he got knocked out. That's it,
right.
Or, it was a close fight. Like even Charlo's fight where it was a draw and he wanted to come back and beat that guy. He knocked him out in the rematch, but he was amped up because he's like, I can do better. But when you see Spence, it's like he can say he can do better, but there's really nothing to fall back on from that first fight to say he can do better, man. Like,
yeah, and I mean, and think about it. Is doing better getting stopped in the 10th as opposed to the 9th? Is that doing better?
Never.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got to measure that too. How do you categorize doing better?
Right.
You feel me?
Andre Ward said it too. He was like, "Ain't no moral victory." Ain't no moral victory in there.
Because you trying to prove a point could cost you some of your health down the line. You know what I'm saying? It's a big decision, man. I mean, I don't know what the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. It's something that's a crossroad that Earl and a decision he gotta make. You know what I mean? Being a man, and it's a tough one. I ain't going front. I ain't gonna say, "Oh, do this. Oh, you gotta do it." No, it's a tough one, man. It's a tough one. Yeah. It's a lot of money at stake. Your health is at stake. Your pride is at stake. At 154, no belts are at stake. At 147, you still got the possibility of accomplishing something you said you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. And when I look at it, like I look at it and say, okay, he made a lot of money from the first fight. He rich. He could go in making a lot of money from this fight too. But at what cost?
At what cost?
At what cost? How many? yeah, how many good years are you gonna have with your family? And you still got a little one. You know, you got a little boy. Like, how many good years you plan on having? You know, if you go into this type of fight again. So that's a lot to think about, man. It's crazy, man. But yeah, Pete, before we wrap this up, man, was there anything else you wanted to speak on real quick? Any final thoughts, man?
No, man. Like, we could go on this all night long from different angles or whatever. But right now it just don't seem like it's a smart move for Earl to go into an immediate rematch. Is just my kind of final thoughts, and I share that with a lot of other people. Some people feel like that he can beat him at 154. So we got people on both sides of the fence, but I just think from a health standpoint and a money standpoint, Earl, it's a big payday, but he ain't broke unless he done lift up his money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He shouldn't be broke. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you get the people, because people got to realize, they say, oh, the big payday. And the common man don't ever get a big payday and live their life.
Mm-hmm.
We live our life, Ant.
Yeah.
We don't know if the big payday is coming, but guess what? I still got to live. So it's like, Earl, I mean, you got millions. You might not make another dime, but you got enough money to last you for the rest of your life if you use it right.
Yeah.
So it's all up to Earl. It's all up to Earl, so hopefully he's talking to like people that really care about him, man, like his family, his mother, his father, even his father, I'm gonna be curious to what type of conversations his dad having with him.
Yeah. I would too, because I remember like after the last few times Roy had started losing, his trainer, Al Murkison,
right.
He stopped training him. He was like, I ain't gonna train him no more. If he want to keep going, you got to get somebody else. So, I kind of hope that his father kind of, looks at it in that same way where he says something like, you really don't need this, you really don't need it. But we'll see, man. But yeah, P, that was good. Good conversation. It's always good to get back in.
For sure, man.
Mic with you for sure, man. But before we go, where can we follow you at, P?
Y'all could catch me on YouTube at Loud Pack Boxing 1. You can catch me at Instagram at Loud Pack Boxing. And that's really it for right now, man. Just You can catch me on Loud Pack Boxing 1 on TikTok. I just trying to get over there and catch some of that too, and you know what I mean? Actually, somebody recommended that I go over there. I wasn't a fan of TikTok, but they say, hey man, I think you might be good over there. So I'm over there too, so they can catch me over there. TikTok.
Okay. All right. And you can catch us both on this show, the Jab Podcast, wherever you download podcasts at, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, TunedIn, any of them platforms. Just type it in and we there. You can follow us on Instagram, and you can follow me on YouTube at Combo Breaker 99p. But yeah, I know we'll be back with another one next week. We got to speak on this Charlo Canelo. It's going down. Charlo making this thing look a little more interesting, P. I'm gonna say that, man.
Yeah, like I said, man, I agree. I hold it for the show, but I agree.
All right. But yeah, y'all, we out on this one. Like always, I'm Combo Breaker 99.
It's your boy P.
All right, y'all, we out. Later.